Billy, thanks for taking the time out of your busy
No,
schedule
my pleasure.
coming in. Yeah, yeah. That was your McLaren out front?
The orange one?
Yeah,
Yes, it is. How'd you know that?
I heard.
When I drove up or the word of mouth?
I heard, and thanks for the magic trick before we got on.
Oh, sure.
That one I got to figure out. I got to look that one up on the internet.
That one's not on the web yet, but
All
it will
right.
be soon, I'm
All
sure.
right. So you're, beside being a prolific inventor, 170 patents or patents pending,
Something like that, yeah.
8 company startups, transacted at least half of them,
Sounds close or,
Right.
or correct.
around there, and then part of the J&J Innovation organization.
Right? With CDI at TMC.
And so you stay pretty busy, so appreciate you taking the
I
time
try
out.
to.
And this is your home, this is your stomping grounds, Houston.
Yeah, I moved here when I was 18 months old. My dad actually was recruited down here from New York City to help Judge Roy Hoffines open the Astrodome and to do radio and TV for Houston Sports Network. And the baseball team was named after a handgun, the Colt 45s.
Really?
So Houston's changed a lot since I've been here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I moved here when I was 18 months old.
Wow, and never left.
Well, I spent 11 years in Boston. My first job was at the Beth Israel Deaconess, and I was on the Harvard faculty, but then came back here to join Bud Frazier and Denton Cooley and Jim Willerson at the Texas Heart Institute.
A good crew, good crew. Your presentation this morning was really interesting. You know, one of the things that you had said about in the startup world is sometimes you can be too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, there are technologies that have their moment. And, you know, there are people that have been working on driverless cars for a long time, but got no love. And now the world's all abuzz with driverless cars. Did you know the people that spent their fortunes crisscrossing the United States with railroad tracks all died penniless? Because they were trying to do it at a time where it wasn't accepted and the world didn't anticipate they needed it. So if you were the person that moved in right when everybody wanted to have railroads, you made a fortune. You did it before then, not so lucky.
What technologies do you see that being potentially liable today on? So you've been around, again, in this industry for 30 plus years, and have seen everything from, we talked about mitral valve repair this morning, right, which is near and dear to my
And
heart.
we were too early there. There was a whole slew of mitral valve companies that got acquired in a 2 or 3 year period for upwards of $400 or $500 million. You know, we just set out a little too early.
What are you keeping your eyes on now, though? So all this data, all this digital, and I think
Yeah.
people are using that word a little too loosely.
Sure.
But you know, you came out of the old plumbing days, like when I came out of it, right?
Right.
We were making devices one at a time, surgeon's hand, affecting change, and
Right.
now med tech, health tech's become this digital ecosystem suddenly.
Well, I think Adam, who was on that same panel with me, when he was talking about the 6 rows of staples, he said, we were solving a problem that nobody thought needed to be solved. And if you offer digital science to somebody and say, no, this is going to help you be a better surgeon, it's going to help you focus your efforts, the first time a surgeon is working and a voice says, stay away from the common duct and reflect the left lobe of the liver, they'll say, turn that off. So I think it's going to be challenging, not impossible, but challenging to get that right, how to provide digital insights that people are willing to accept. I think it's also, though, the next huge frontier. I mean, you see how digital science has changed in every other field and affected everything else we do. It's going to affect medicine, but it's got to do it just right.
You bring up an interesting point. Digital has been embraced by the rest of the world in almost every category, right? However, medicine and healing and surgery continues to be an art. It's still a disconnected art,
Yeah.
right? We have brilliant surgeons like yourself and others who are at this show, and you represent the top 1%, yet a majority of the practitioners tend to be in the middle of the distribution curve. So we're trying to take this digital scaling and now put it in somebody like your hands or some of the other surgeons' hands. Are you really going to listen to that? And why would I take a 1%er and try and increase your skills by 0.5% when I should be moving the middle of the distribution curve up?
Well, you're very kind, and I don't know if any of that's true, but really, digital science has the opportunity to democratize things, make it so someone of average abilities can get outstanding results. And you think about what are those things, how do people get great results? It's pattern recognition, and something's telling them there's something that's not right, and they've got a hint that, no, this isn't gonna be good for this one, that's all digitizable. Just the question is, how do you make it palatable so people are receptive to some source other than their own experience telling them what to do? And I think it's doable, but you gotta, it's gotta be a group of surgeons that have grown up with that. You take a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old surgeon who's been out doing things a certain way their whole life, and you say, look, this is robotic navigation. It's going to let you do a knee with much greater accuracy. And they grin and go, man, son, I do a knee with perfect accuracy right now. Yeah. So it's just hitting it the right time when people are coming out of training, have them train with it, and finding people that are receptive to it.
Yeah, and it feels like that's going to be generational. So I think we had that back in the day when you can go back to the old surgical stabling with Leon Hirsch, right? So Leon actually was the genius who said, he's a dear friend of mine too, right? So let's go back and get in the teaching hospitals and get them early so we don't have to teach them, you know, how to suture by hand, right? And that's where he picked up that generation thereafter.
He did it just right. By the way, you know what he was doing before he came up with the stapler?
Yeah, he was a washer machine repairman.
Dry cleaning and carnival rides.
Yes.
What a great transformation.
We were fortunate enough to have an interview in his house with him and his wife about 2 years ago. I'll send you the link. It was really magical. It was magical. So yeah, and he shared firsthand, because you heard all the stories about Leon back in the day on how he actually got the patent and the Russian patent, and he took us through the actual day he sat in this fellow's office, and there was a Russian stapler sitting on the table, and he went home, and he was a hard worker. He wasn't just.
He didn't get there by accident.
No, he didn't stay there by accident.
People say it's luck, and it's Denton Cooley used to have a great saying: "The harder I work, the luckier I get."
You know, one of the things, you know, you have this fantastic sort of reputation that precedes you, as you have a lot of fun in this industry.
I try to.
You do. I mean, you again, you know, magician, musician, obviously deep thinker with all the patents, creative, driven. But you have fun. I don't want to be disrespectful and say you don't take yourself seriously, but you obviously do, but you tend to have a lot of fun in whatever you do in this. And I think that stands out because too many people get way too serious in the way they carry themselves. Where'd that come from?
I don't know. I mean, I oscillate back and forth. My pendulum swings. Sometimes I am having no fun. And I realize that if I can sort of take myself less seriously, it decompresses. It makes it like, look, I'm doing the best I can. This is only a job. This is my life. I had parents that embraced fun. I have a brother and sister that embrace fun. This is not a rehearsal. This is your life. And I know some people who are wildly successful, but I've never seen them smile. And it all depends how you keep score. And I think having an enjoyable journey is the only reason to exist, you know?
Startup people. So you've been around them for a long time. The young ones coming up right now, right? There's not a lot of mentors out there like there were back in the early days. I remember the stories, you know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, when the guys from Hartford and Cardiothoracic Systems, and they would all...
Genzyme,
Genzyme too. They'd all battle each other, but there was always that camaraderie and you know, around, and I don't see as much of that today, and I don't know why. You know, we have Mac Gower with, you know, Stanford, you know, but
Ayers.
What advice would you give them? The young
so
ones
I'm going to say that's not true.
Okay.
I'm going to say that, like, when I was a young man, there were mentors, but they were, you know, few and far between. I'd heard of this legendary Tom Fogarty and thought, wow, and John Simpson, but they weren't in our ecosystem. Now, you can throw a Frisbee and hit a biodesign program. Every university has them. Everybody, because when I was young, if you spent a lot of your bandwidth trying to invent something and start a company, that was really looked down on. It was like, you should focus on caring for the patient. You know, this trying to make something of value. No, you're a doctor, you're to heal the sick. It's kind of like, well, there's a big intersection of those two things. Now, since Stanford now in its 19th year of biodesign has created so much value and changed the world in so many ways, and by the way, that's so cool that Josh is going to be leading that. Hart, you know, Paul left some big shoes to fill, but Josh is the guy. I think all the universities saw how successful Stanford had been and said, maybe we should try that. And now every university has a biodesign program. And with dedicated faculty that are, their job is to mentor people and bring in companies and encourage people to start companies. So I think now it's much easier to find, maybe not the kind of legendary mentors like Tom Fogarty, but there are people to help you. There are textbooks about innovation. There are textbooks about startup 0 to 1. There's so much stuff now that didn't exist when I was young.
So what do you tell them? You're sitting down, you're having a beer with them, and they want to do a brain drain on you. What should be the first few things they're thinking about as they start these companies up and they're taking it out of the clinic?
Yeah. So, I mean, I give a talk on this where I go down my list, but the most important one is have a good idea that addresses a real unmet need. And to do that, you either have to have real domain expertise, really understand that field, or find somebody who's going to help you who does. So if you've got a really good idea, the next thing to do is psych yourself up. Because you talk about fun, it's really just a manifestation of passion. Passion for the stuff I do, for the stuff I get involved in. Doing this work takes tons of energy, and resilience, because things aren't going to go great. You need to be your own psychotherapist and your own cheerleader, because you need to be able to convey that excitement to get people to quit their day job and come work with you. And they got to be the right people, as you know better than I do. So you got to be super passionate. You got to be thinking it and reinventing it the whole time. You got to find the right people, infect them with your passion, and get them to follow the yellow brick road with you, because you need to get it to a stage where you can raise money. And one of the guys quoted my very favorite quote today: venture capital bets on the jockeys, not the horses.
That's right.
And that's so true. And that's why finding the right people, which what you do, is so essential. With the right people, you can do anything. With the wrong people, you can't do anything. And so what's the first step? Is get to be that individual, or you and somebody else or whatever, that's going to convince the right people to join your Grail quest. And if you have a bad project, they'll be smart enough to go, you seem like a great guy, but that's a really stupid project. So, you know, it's just the whole, it's
true,
the path.
right? Yeah,
It's the path.
And it's not straight, it's just the path.
Well, and they say innovation or entrepreneurship in general is like a boat tacking against the wind. You go here, then you go there, and every once in a while you look where you're supposed to go and go, God, this is not right. But as long as, once you get there, you look back and go, man, I was heading here the whole time.
That's right.
Then you just got to brace yourself. Again, be a psychotherapist, because Mother Nature will slap you in the face over and over again, and you just get, so you go, a good swing, good swing. Now, what's good? What can I pick out of there to rally the troops and say everything's good? And we'll just, you know, it's that over and over again.
Yeah,
and that takes a lot of energy, and to have the energy, you have to be passionate.
Yeah. What are you going to keep your eyes on over the next 3 or 4 years in the med tech industry in particular?
So, shamelessly, I'm going to self-promote Bivacor.
Tell me about it.
Bivacor is the world's first practical, permanent, total artificial heart. It's got one moving part, no mechanical wear. That's the company I was telling you earlier that we just did a big raise for, and we've done cow after cow after cow jogging on treadmills. We've got a very favorable preclinical assessment from the FDA, and we're now building the team, and I think that's going to be world-changing, because statistically a lot of us are going to die of heart failure, heart disease. If you had something that electively in the day you could say, I think you're a medium, take a box off the shelf and sew it in a very quick operation, and it would outlast, outpump, outperform a healthy human heart by every metric, that'd be pretty cool, right? Well, nobody's been able to do that. But if that did happen, that would be huge. And Bivacor, I think, is the lead contender for that in the history of the field.
Is that going to be down here in Houston?
The company's in Southern California, Houston, and Brisbane.
Got it.
It's sort of spread out. Daniel Timms, brilliant scientist whose father died of heart failure, has invented this, who's living on air forever and ever, sleeping on couches and getting it together. And they brought it to Texas Heart Institute. A local furniture maven, Mattress Mac at Gallery Furniture, gave us our first $2.5 million. With that, we were able to move it along, and now it's a self-sustaining business.
Wow, that'll be a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of that, now, after that little infomercial of packed with self-interest, I would say, you know, some of the stuff at Johnson & Johnson to give them a shout out with robotics and with the RS platform and digitizing medical devices and capturing meaningful insights. I think Johnson & Johnson's doing a brilliant job of it, and I love watching that. And we get to see the new technology, and it's amazing. And so I think some of that's going to change the world. And then what we were talking about a second ago is leveraging actionable digital insights and digitizing information. If it's done right, will have a huge impact.
Yeah, and I love that idea, and I've not heard that spoken about yet, is we hear about the cognitive load being reduced and putting it in the clinician's hands at the right place at the right time, but boy, it could be interfering if not done properly.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and they'll shut it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be like that dripping faucet that you just can't take.
Or do you have a car that if you're changing lanes and it's wrong, it corrects on the steering wheel? It's like, don't you ever touch my steering wheel, you know?
That's right. Actually, all of the assist. I have a rear view mirror that you can fold down that gives you a wider view. I'm not used to it. I put the regular one back up.
My phone, when I'm looking at a map, it goes, you want to zoom like this? I go, no, I want to zoom like this. You know? Don't guess what I want to do. That's what AI is all about, right? Digital insights. It's kind of like, oh, I go, oh, do you want the sports scores for, no. I'll never want the sports scores. You know, my phone doesn't listen to me.
Yeah,
so AI giveth and it taketh away.
Agreed, agreed. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate
thanks,
the
Joe.
time.
This was fun.
This has been great. I'm Joe Mullings from Houston, SDTS. Be well.